Please. You're alive. We did it, husband. A miracle. A miracle. What electronic challenges tonight? Okay, but we're here. And my husband is going to teach Halachah, which is biblical laws. Enjoy the class. Here you go, husband.
Good evening, everyone, and thank you for joining us. Especially important for us to study Torah
Give me the
tonight.
music until it stops.
It's especially important for us to study Torah tonight. There's an observance by many not to have Torah study between sunset and midnight last night, when millions are bowing down and praying to a false god. And we do not add our Torah study on that night to be of any kind of credit to this false god who proclaimed himself as a Jew, as a matter of fact. He's called a Jew. The Christians refer to him as a Jew, but who led his own people as best he could away from Judaism. And Maimonides finds a benefit to a certain extent by saying that at least they stopped worshiping a whole bunch of false gods, and they started looking for what we call a Messiah, a redeeming leader and king. And they have selected J.C. Penney, who's a false god and a false Messiah. But at any rate, at least people have the idea to look for the truth eventually. So tonight, when we resume our Torah studies, and we did during the daytime as well, we're going to go through the most, I would say, the closest next special day in Judaism, which is coming up this coming Tuesday. And we won't have a class about biblical law before Tuesday, so I wanted to, of course, devote tonight's Thursday night class, which is especially for that, to Tuesday night. So what is Tuesday? What is special about Tuesday? Tuesday is one of the special fasts that's associated with the destruction of the Holy Temple. And it happened very long ago, and for that reason, people don't relate to it. And I just share a little story for a few minutes to help us how it's difficult for us to relate to it, but in our time and what's going on right now, we can relate to it very beautifully. So I'll start off by reading the general law. This is a biblical law that has to do with fasting altogether. People don't like fasting too much. Now they're actually recommending fasting as a health benefit, which is rather interesting to hear. So when the Torah tells us to fast, and people did not hear that from doctors, they may have looked upon it in a negative way, that perhaps it's unhealthy or putting a strain on the body, etc., etc. Now they're saying that the body actually could use a real good rest from constantly processing, digesting food, and getting rid of the various toxins, various poisons that are created in the process of eating. So we don't need the doctors and scientists to tell us that our Holy Torah is healthy and that our Holy Torah is true. And if God has given us fast days, and He instructed our rabbis to give us fast days, they are not bad. On the contrary, they are very helpful to us and wonderful to us spiritually as well as physically. As I say once again, now they're seeing actual benefits in giving the body a rest from eating and digesting from time to time, not for too long of a period, of course, is something that would be harmful. For us, fasting is a day in which we stop enjoying ourselves with our full belly, full mouth, full belly, and all of our delights, etc., etc. We're able to think, what does this day mean? What is special about this day? And each of the fast days that we have discussed throughout the year, we've explained each one individually, and we'll talk about this one as well. First of all, let's see why it's a biblical law. It is a positive commandment. We have 248 do commandments, which teach us, for instance, to remember the Sabbath, right? To eat of kosher food. Many positive commandments. I'm the Lord your God. The very first commandment, to only recognize the Almighty as the only God. Honoring parents. You know many of these by heart, many of the positive commandments. Here's one that you probably never heard before. It is a positive commandment from the Torah to cry out and to even blow special trumpets they did in the Holy Temple when there's any kind of a danger, a threatening danger, to try to prevent that from coming upon the community or to be relieved from a terrible problem. So in our Holy Torah, it mentions, Alatzara Terereschem, when you come to war against a terrible enemy who's distressing you, you shall sound the trumpets. There were silver trumpets that were sounded. You probably never heard of that before. So he says, Kol Dabashir Tzalachem, anything that is causing you great distress, fear, and threatening your lives, and this includes not just warfare, it can include terrible disease. Wasn't there a COVID not that long ago around the whole world? Millions were lost. So the idea of fasting, and originally we would sound the trumpets, I'll tell you about that shortly too, a plague of locusts. I think it was Iran, some years ago, had a terrible plague of locusts too, as a matter of fact. You remember that was one of the 10 plagues that plagued Egypt. So, there were some jumpy bugs or whatever. I think in Baltimore or Maryland, they have these cicadas, I forgot what they're called exactly. They don't cause any harm, but they're a big annoyance. They come up every 17 years. Wow. Locusts can eat up all the produce that people need in order to live. So you and I normally don't think much about that, but it does still occur. Any of these things are great, great dangers, and they call for fasting and a day of prayer. And just as the community will fast and pray for asking God for help, likewise, each individual who has terrible problems, let's say they or a loved one are very sick or whatever, we don't run to make additional fasts, but originally people would fast and have a special day of prayer for the sake of that individual who is being endangered. So let me give some background here a little bit. The Almighty knows that from time to time we get ourselves into trouble, real big trouble, and he has to send a reminder, a wake-up call. It may be from a terrible enemy. It could be from the insect, like we mentioned, the locust. It could be all kinds of problems, pollution, all kinds of dangerous problems that occur. Many of the foods are dangerous to eat today that man does to himself. They're actually very dangerous. Many drugs, so to speak, these what you would call pain-relieving drugs are actually very, very dangerous. They hurt different organs of the body. You feel better in one area, I think, God forbid, you have any problems in another area. So in our Holy Torah, we're instructed to have a prayer in which the whole community go into the synagogue, we have special services to ask for help. We have assigned days. We have Yom Kippur, the Day of Atonement. It's the greatest fast day of all. And we have the fast days that are associated with the destruction of the temple. That's this Tuesday coming right up. So I mentioned a few minutes ago, and I might take a little bit longer tonight than I originally expected to help us really, really understand what this is all about. Then I'm going to ask you a question. Anyway, this concept of sounding trumpets, you've heard of sounding the shofar. Did you ever hear of sounding trumpets? In the Holy Temple, when there would be a danger to the Jewish people, the trumpets were sounded for the offerings too. But when there was danger to the people, the trumpets would be sounded. This goes back to the time of Moshe Rabbeinu, Moses, silver trumpets. And when there would be a fast day, because there was emergency, something dangerous occurring, then in the services, these trumpets would be sounded. Many, many years ago in Jerusalem, when one of the terrible enemies, I regret, I guess it was so many years ago, can't remember which war or which threat was threatened against Israel, as we certainly can feel that right now. They did something that we don't do today. They actually proclaimed, which we don't do today normally, a half-day fast for the whole world, for all Jewry all around the world. And they even sounded the silver trumpets in Jerusalem, following the precept of the Torah from many years ago. I don't know why they don't do it more often now, especially with the tremendous dangers that Israel is facing this very second, etc., etc. So I just wanted you to know that this actually was practiced. Remember, in my lifetime, I actually remember that this was practiced, and that most unusually, normally fasts are not proclaimed anymore because we're not that healthy, we're not that strong. Most people can't do that well. We try to manage with the fast that we have, which includes the number one fast is Yom Kippur, and we have the various fasts associated with the destruction of the temple. That's the third day of Tishrei. We have the Tzom Gedalia after Rosh Hashanah. We have Shiva Osa B'Tammuz in the summer, the 17th day of Tammuz, when the walls of Jerusalem were breached and the enemy got in to destroy the city. And also the 9th of Av, when both of the holy temples were destroyed. Those are the major fast days of the year, with Yom Kippur being a biblical fast day, a day of forgiveness especially. So this is one of the positive commandments in order to ask the Almighty for His mercy, and we fast. Those who are able to, of course. We don't add additional fasts besides the ones I've mentioned already. There is Tanis Esther, the day before Purim is a fast, but it's not because of anything bad. The fast of Esther, the day before Purim, is because something wonderful happened, actually. That was the day the Jewish people were able to defend themselves against their enemies all over the world. Haman gotten a decree from Ahasuerus the king to have a day in which the entire Jewish people was supposed to be eradicated, exactly like with Iran and all those other proxies, those horrors, etc., say to this very minute, not only to this very day, but to this very minute. And he actually got his way with the king. And only with God's help, Esther was able to get a counter decree to which the Jewish people on the 13th of Adar, that's Erev Purim, we would have permission to destroy our enemies. Big miracle, the whole world against the Jewish people. That's what it is right now, isn't it? The whole world against the Jewish people with the horrible things that we are undergoing. And we had our wonderful holiday of Hanukkah, which is unfortunately stained in the terrible, terrible incidents of 50 Jewish people. A group of 2,000 had gathered to honor Hanukkah, and there was a Chabad rabbi, and another rabbi who were leading the celebration, and this turned into an enormous tragedy. We ask the Almighty to help us. Well, I'd like to share with you just for a few minutes what was going on thousands of years ago. I started to tell you that it's time for us to relate to this now. There's a couple that came to one of the Chabad rabbis and said to him, "We are very upset because our children don't miss the Lubavitcher Rebbe who passed away, and they don't love him like we do. We do revere him and show respect for him, and we feel terribly. We knew that Rebbe, the great, great leader of the Jewish people. I had the honor of meeting him and seeing him several times in person as well. And they feel terribly that their children, we failed. We didn't teach our children properly that they should revere and love this great, great leader of the Jewish people who had passed away before they were old enough to actually see him." So the Chabad rabbi explained to them It's not their fault, and it's not your fault. You can't feel great loss and longing for someone you never saw. You never experienced being with him. You learn about this person. You learn their tremendous, wonderful lessons. You're inspired by their wonderful lessons. You can watch his picture on countless videos today too, if one wishes to, etc. And his speeches are translated into English and other languages as well. But to expect your kids to be able to relate to him and feel bad that they can't have the close relationship that you did is not possible and not to be expected of them. So he gives the example also of those who did not see the holy temple, which goes back thousands of years. Those who were living at that time, and we'll soon learn about Jeremiah, who was living at the very end of the first holy temple and beyond, also well into the exile, that we're learning about something that took place thousands of years ago. We're learning about how beautiful and magnificent the temple was, and how it's not only the jewel of the universe, but will again be when the Messiah comes, the true Messiah comes, the Mashiach ben David comes, the descendant of David comes, and teaches us to all the whole world. Will teach the whole world there is only one God, and God is not a man. He's not an angel. He's not a tree. All the things they've selected. He's not an animal. He's not a sheep like the Egyptians. You laugh at those things. Laugh at this too. You laugh. This baby who was supposed to be born at that time created the world. And when he died, why didn't the world, how come the world didn't get destroyed? Because he's not God. Never was God, never will be God. We understand it, and many of our people understand who are not actually even observant. They understand from our own Torah that these concepts that were made up are lovely fairy tales, tremendous fairy tales. Well, that insults people, and I don't like insulting people. But we have to stand up for the truth and teach the truth. It's so, so important, especially at this time, where every word you turn on any station or any program, whatever, the first words are MC. Very first words they have to tell you, MC. Are there other people who don't worship a false God in the world? Are there those who don't worship any false God and only worship one God? Even the Muslims who hate us terribly, and the Islamic extremists who vow to destroy us, God forbid, even they don't fall for idol worship. They have twisted around their religion into being a hateful, destructive, killing religion, a cruel and killing religion. That's what they've done. They're supposed to be so religious and so pious, but that's okay. They could take a Jewish woman and sin with her, force her, then shoot her in the back of the head, and then parade her around without clothes. That's a real religious Muslim, isn't it? That's real religion, isn't it? Isn't it? How disgusting and incredibly disgusting that is. But those are the ones who are still aiming guns at us and threatening us. And the Prime Minister, I'm sorry, uh, Prime Minister Netanyahu is meeting with President Trump. Never mind us getting permission. We have to destroy those who are out involved to destroy us. There's no ceasefire. It's stupid. Stupid. Every day there are attacks upon Israel, and every day Israel has to retaliate and fight back. You call that a ceasefire? There hasn't been a day, I think, that there wasn't some incident. So you and I are living at a severe time, and we weren't conscious, at least at this point. Our souls were there. We didn't see the first holy temple in its glory and its beauty. We didn't see it destroyed and have to walk and see the ruins afterwards and realize what a tremendous thing we had lost. Well, therefore, it seems to be very far away from us and very removed. I'm going to ask you a question. I said I was going to ask you a question. What we're going through now, the threats, the attacks, the danger, not only on the Jewish people, but on the whole world, actually, especially from horrible Iran, is that worth fasting about? I ask you, is that worth a fast to ask for God's deliverance and to help us? Well, this Tuesday, there is a fast on the Jewish calendar. And we can use that fast for the very purpose that we read from the Code of Jewish Law to defend ourselves and God protect us from a terrible, threatening enemy. Now, just to bring this a little bit closer to you for a few minutes, Iran, the head of the snake, who has spent all its money, their people are starving, their people are in terrible danger, dying of thirst, their people are incredibly neglected, and all their money goes to pay for missiles and bombs to destroy the Jewish people. I'm amazed, although it's easy for me to sit comfortably in my chair over here, I'm amazed that there isn't one individual who has the courage to rise up. They all are at tremendous odds against their regime, their horrible Khomeini. Haman Khomeini, may he be destroyed immediately. Horrible. He calls us Jewish people the C word, the sickness of the C word. That's what he calls us. What is he? Far worse. And yet, no one can rise up against him. There is one who's got the courage to rise up against them and make a revolution. By the way, this Khomeini, these guys and everything, they made a revolution against their previous government. They themselves, that's what's called, their army is called the Revolutionary Army, Revolutionary Guard. That's why it has that name. Now, they seem to be a far-off country. You can certainly see with your computer or look in any atlas, you can see where Iran is. Would you be surprised to hear that the fast of the 10th of Teves on Tuesday was because of the tremendous breach, the tremendous, terrible siege of Jerusalem that was begun by King Nebuchadnezzar of Babylonia? That really sounds like foreign territory, right? Who is he? What is he? This Nebuchadnezzar was the Khomeini of those days. You know where he's located? Iran. You know where Iraq is next to Iran? That's where Babylonia is. That's where Babylonia was. The same threat, threatened many times. What did we have in those days? We had still prophecy. We had individuals who were so holy and so saintly that they got messages from the Almighty and gave them to the people. But we neglected them. We refused to listen. We ignored what the prophets told us. And that's why right now we don't have professional prophets. God does send messages to us in various amazing ways. And there are various saintly people who do get information from the Almighty. But this idea of being a professional, like a rabbi, a professional rabbi, a professional scholar, a prophet would be a professional messenger of the Almighty who gave the Jewish people speeches that the Almighty said to give them. So I'm going to just give you an idea of what was going on in those days. You should have an idea why Jerusalem was besieged. For years, the people suffered terribly, and in the end, they broke in on the 17th of Tammuz in the summertime that we observed that fast, and the 9th about 3 weeks later also. So Babylonia, like many of these powerful countries, just like Iran, just like Russia, looked to see what countries they could take over, what power. And this Nebuchadnezzar was looking at Israel, just like the horrible Khomeini is looking to eradicate the Jewish people and the Iranian regime and all these other horrors, Hezbollah, Hamas, all these horrors. So Jeremiah, one of the latter prophets, amongst the last prophets during the time of the destruction of the temple, he gave a message to the Jewish people from God. If you don't listen to me, God, to walk in my Torah, follow my laws, which I set before you, to listen to the words of my servants, the prophets. We had prophets. We had these special rabbis to give us messages from Hashem. They were very holy people who were worthy to get such messages. God warns, I'll render this house, the holy temple will be destroyed, and the city will be the opposite of blessing to all the nations of the earth. Jerusalem was a center of blessing for the whole world. Now it's going to be exactly opposite. Now, let me tell you how the people reacted to this warning. First of all, let me tell you, you're going to say it's stupid and ridiculous. It's going on this minute, just this minute, too. Millions bowing down. It's funny, it's interesting. There's a rabbi I watched, he said, an Orthodox rabbi, he said, my favorite day of the year is Christmas. How could that be a rabbi's favorite day? He says, because millions of people around the world are bowing down to a Jew. Something to think about. The false god today would be J.C. Penney, amongst others. He's a very popular false god. It's very popular to follow that. They make up beautiful stories, beautiful paintings, beautiful music, all kinds of attractive things to attract people and to draw them away from Judaism. In Israel now, it's terrible. You have people who are lighting a Hanukkah menorah. We just finished celebrating the holiday of Hanukkah. And they're also joining these Christian Jew groups to try to be a mixture. You cannot be a Jew and a Christian, or a Christian and a Jew. If you're a Jew, there's only one God. There always was one God. There always is one God. There always will be only one God. You can't pretend to be both. You can't say because Jesus was Jewish, you could be a Jesus Christian too. No. The two do not mix. They cannot mix. Either you believe in one God or you believe in a false God. There's the two choices. Now, let me share with you the reaction to this message. Here, Jeremiah is making a last-ditch attempt to get the people away from their false gods of those days. Oh, they bow down to stone, they bow down to idols. Bowing down to a human being is the same thing. And the many kings did the same thing. They proclaimed themselves, by the way, a false god all through the centuries, all through that time. Abraham, the first Jew, right? He was living at a time where the king, Nimrod, proclaimed himself a false god. He proclaimed himself a false god. It was a great way to make a living. Make people think that you're God, so they worship you and they give you money, and they do everything that you tell them to do, even if it's crazy. Works good. It works good. And it's still working, unfortunately. All right, now listen to what I have to say now. When the priests, that's the special rabbis of the Holy Temple, and the false prophets heard these words, when they heard the warning from Jeremiah that the Holy Temple would be destroyed if you don't stop this idol worship, which was very powerful in those days too, they grabbed Jeremiah. They brought him before the princes and elders of the people, clamoring that he should be put to death. But Jeremiah fearlessly declared that God sent him to announce his message to encourage the people to correct their evil ways. As for me, the prophet continued, I'm in your hands, but I know for certain that if you put me to death, you'll surely bring innocent blood upon yourselves and upon the city and upon the inhabitants. Well, the princes and elders were impressed by Jeremiah's sincerity and his courage to stand up to these false prophets. They told the false prophets and priests to leave him alone. All right. Jeremiah didn't stop and he continued trying to encourage the people. Let me tell you about this idea of false prophets. This idea of false prophets was also very popular. A false prophet will tell you you can do anything you feel like. You can bow down to anything you feel like. If it makes you feel good, just plain do it. You can believe in anything you want, and everything will be good. In God's mercy, things are good for periods of time. See, even though we don't keep the Torah, even though we're worshiping false gods, look, we're doing great. You may have heard of Jezebel and Ahab. Jezebel, the most wicked woman, incredibly wicked person, Jezebel. When they want to say something bad about a woman, they call it, well, she's a real Jezebel. I don't know if you hear it now or not. Anyways, during her time, her husband Ahab was the king of the northern kingdom of Israel. That's the Samaria that you keep hearing about. Samaria was the northern kingdom. Judea is the southern kingdom of Israel. So we're hearing about those today and the terrorist attacks there too, etc. We're supposed to give that up too. We're supposed to give up our whole country that God gave us. Everything's supposed to give them. Forget about Gaza. Oh, in Gaza, you got to give them Judea, you got to give them Samaria, you got to give them everything. East Bank, West Bank, whatever. We're living in a crazy era. Do not be fooled for 1 second. So these false prophets made a good living. What they did is they told everybody how wonderful things will be. Ahab was living at the time of Elijah the prophet. I'm sure you've heard of Elijah, the great prophet Elijah. So Ahab said to Elijah, you're telling me to stop bowing down to these false gods, to these idols. I know when I say, you say they were stupid. The same thing if you declare a human being a false god, it's exactly the same thing. They bow down to a statue in the church too, by the way. That's also a nice physical false god that's available too. So Ahab says, look at what's going on now. We are thriving. We have all our needs. We have plenty of food. We have plenty of money. And we're worshiping these false gods. And you're telling us we're doing the wrong thing. So Elijah stood up and said, there'll be no rain until I say so. There was a tremendous famine that took place to teach this Ahab that just because you think things are peaches and cream and hunky-dory, you think it's because you're so good, you're doing the right thing. So, of course, they were out to kill Elijah. They went to try to chase after him, try to kill him. God had to save him. Anyways, these false prophets made a good living. Don't listen to the Torah. Don't listen to truth. Listen to the Christian beliefs, false gods. Listen to that. You'll do very, very well. You see you're making a good living. You see you're feeling good, etc., etc. This is good. And you know when this Jeremiah, a true prophet of God, this Jeremiah is telling us that there's going to be tremendous destruction, don't listen to him. He's full of baloney. He's making it up. Don't listen to him. Listen to us better. Listen to us better, to what we do. Well, you and I weren't living at that time as we are now. To us, it seems to be a very big foolishness. And people were given ample warning that Babylonia, specifically Babylonia, was going to take over and conquer Israel and destroy the temple. What I find interesting, very much I'd like to share with you, and maybe it's very comparable to what's going on today too, that Babylonia attacked Israel several times. It was actually a process. It wasn't all at once. It was a process, and the people had opportunity to turn back to the Almighty the proper way and save themselves and save the country and save the Holy Temple, but they refused to listen completely, absolutely refused to listen. So now I ask you that question again. With what we're going through right now, I think in fact it's this Monday that the special meeting between Prime Minister Netanyahu and President Trump is supposed to take place. Tuesday is the fast day. Is this worth fasting about? Is this first it worth giving up maybe a meal or two? It's one of the more easy fasts. It's in the wintertime, cool weather. It begins at dawn and is at sunset. You can eat the night before as long as you mention you're planning to eat the night before. It's one of the more gentle fasts. You can't fast all day to fast for the morning, at least until around 1 o'clock, whatever you could do. But the main thing isn't just to stop eating. The main thing is saying, Dear Almighty, we are again just like in the time of Babylonia and Jeremiah. We're in the time of Khomeini, may his name be erased, the time of Iran, the time of Hamas, of Hezbollah, of Houthis, all these Turkey, these are all horrible enemies of the Jewish people, Qatar, etc. They pretend to be, they want to be part of the force to keep the peace. The first thing they're going to do is to put Hamas back into power. That's what we know without question. So this important meeting is going to take place on Monday. Is it worth fasting on Tuesday? Is it worth remembering what happened centuries ago? When we're faced with the same dangers this very second, all these fronts are vowing to annihilate us. All these fronts are trying to do the exact same thing. So let's have our courage, keep our courage and our faith in the Almighty. Thank you for listening tonight and have a wonderful Shabbos. And please do what you can in order on Tuesday. Prayer. Prayer does not mean skipping breakfast. Prayer is to remember that our people are in great danger. Are we in great danger in Israel? Is Australia Israel? Is London, is England Israel? Is France Israel? Is the United States of America? Is this Israel? The hatred is for us all over the world. The threats are all over the world. So it's very much worth fasting for on Tuesday and asking for the Almighty to deliver us as he did many years ago. So thank you for joining us, and please God, we should hear very good news right away. We ask that the Almighty say, I'm fed up with what's going on with my people. It's time for me to step in, as I did in the Hanukkah story and in the Purim story. It's time for me to step in and stop these wicked people for all their horrible, horrible things they're doing to all people all around the world. Okay, be well. Thank you again for joining us.
Okay, I'm coming to take the screen.
Joy, shut the phone. I don't know. If anyone's on the phone, thank you for joining us. I'm going to shut the conference call. I don't know if anybody joined.
Let me. The Rebbetzin was there for sure.
For a while.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Thanks for coming in, everybody. And thank you, dear God, that you heard my prayers to be able to get this video recording. And we'll see you on Sunday, noontime, New York. Okay. Sei be gesund.